this is Todd. This is a pretty impromptu video. I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about Clubhouse and how Clubhouse relates or how useful it is for RPGs. If you haven't heard of Clubhouse, it's, I guess, the latest or one of the newest social media darlings. It's all about audio conversations. It features rooms that you can host and talk about anything. It's all audio based. There's absolutely no text chatting. There is nothing visual to it at all. You're just listening to voices. It does have the capability to, through the UI, to sort of raise your hand from the audience, in which case the folks who are hosting the rooms can elevate you to speaker status so you can speak. But that's about it. I got an invitation through a coworker who I'm not sure how she got it, and I'm not even sure how she decided to give it to me. Maybe because I think it goes through your... There are a couple of things I read about it that maybe from a privacy standpoint should be alarming to folks. I think when you send out invitations, it basically takes your entire context list. So maybe it took hers and parsed out that I had put my name in the hat for just an invitation through their normal beta process. Yes, this is also in beta, so who knows how this will progress and how they will choose to monetize it. And I'll try to post in the notes in the description, if I can recall, the article that talked about some of the maybe things to be cautious about as far as Clubhouse, but it's the same kind of thing I think you have to be cautious about whenever you're giving your information or signing up for a social media type platform. In any case, I got in a couple of weeks ago, and I've been slowly getting my feet wet and figuring things out. So I thought I could give you a state of Clubhouse as it is now in terms of RPGing. When you join Clubhouse, it essentially pushes you to follow folks. And by following them, you'll start to see when they're people who you're following are hosting rooms, they're part of rooms that kind of give you a chance to join in and take a part or just listen. I think you have to be on the platform, I read, 3 weeks before you can create your own group, which is like you might think of a group, somewhere you can organize, have multiple people who are members or admins of, just basic way to organize yourself. I think I've been on the platform maybe 2 weeks, so I can't create any groups. I will probably create a group when I can, and if you follow me on social media or somewhere, I will post whatever it is I create when I create it, assuming it lets me link it out, or however I can do it, I will do that. As far as RPGs goes, I found 2 main groups, one of which a lot bigger and a lot more organized, and one that seemed to be a few people. The smaller one, I think it's called OSD&D, old school D&D. They seem to host games, and maybe they do some other talks. I sat into one of those games, which was essentially, basically was listening to them play through a game, which was fun. Though they were actually playing 5th edition, so it wasn't particularly old school, though I saw in some of the bios that some of the folks there were kind of old-time players, have been playing the game for a long time, but they were playing 5th edition D&D. And it was fun to sit in, and they did a good job recapping things for the audience off and on. Not obviously not their entire campaign, but just sort of a little bit about the setting was and what they were doing. And they took a couple of breaks and invited people like me to kind of step up and say something about ourselves, or hey, how do we enjoy the game, or things about that. So I interfaced with them a little bit about that. And they invited me to join the group, which I have done. But joining that group doesn't exactly mean, it's not signing you up for anything, really. It really just gives you access to, hey, these people are online if you want to try to corral them to talk about something. Which, given that I don't know anybody other than having those 30-second conversations, it's kind of weird for me to think, oh, I'll just try to grab them into an impromptu room, which would be, like a talk. But it's there, and they haven't obviously reached out to me either, which I get it. It's kind of strange. But you can just kind of see their stuff, and potentially you could host a room under that group's banner, so to speak. The far larger group, which seem to be pretty well organized and have scheduled a lot of talks, is called D&D. And I had run across them, I think, last week. But this week was maybe the first time I tried to participate. They were doing just doing a talk about clerics. 5th edition clerics. it's fairly interesting stuff. It wasn't just mechanics. It was a mix of mechanics, lore, and just all kinds of different things. So it essentially was as if you could have kind of a round table about folks mostly talking from a GM's perspective, but also from a player's perspective, just about clerics. And it was interesting to listen to. I didn't catch the whole thing. I maybe caught the last 25 minutes, and I participated a little bit. And what you do is, I didn't know anybody. I think just because the app sort of forces you to follow people, I had gone through and tried to find all the role-playing groups and individuals that seemed to be associated with RPGs. And the search isn't great, but I ended up finding those two groups. There might be a couple others, but I think that D&D group is really the biggest. In any case, you can raise your hand, which is you press a little button in the interface, and it kind of, I guess it lets I haven't been a speaker yet, or haven't been in a situation where I'm hosting a room. I actually spoke in this meeting, but I guess it flags them, say, hey, I'd like to talk. And then they can kind of boost you from the audience, which you can see a whole bunch of people, depending on how many are in the room listening. And then it kind of elevates you to be a speaker. And then you can kind of take turns, speaking, basically. And so I participated like that. And it was fun. And it was good stuff. I think I was the only one that seemed to be not in a full 5th edition state of mind. But the kind of things that I mentioned were just general things. They weren't particularly OSR. They weren't particularly 5e either. Clearly, a lot of those folks there who were talking, one guy sort of at the end was giving advice on playing the clerics, and he was very knowledgeable on just mechanical stuff about clerics and rattled off a bunch of things, which I thought was great, somewhat kind of over my head. I'm not a mechanics guy anyway. I always have to look things up and kind of recollect what's going on with things mechanically. But that was cool. And then at the end of it, they have a Discord, which I joined just because I think, look, I'm trying to build an audience just as a creator. So I thought, well, let me join their Discord, see what's going on. They seem like nice folks, and they seem to have a really large group, not only in the group itself, but I guess a large group of sort of active hosts and folks, and they do a lot. I think I'm recording this on a Saturday, and I'm going to try to post it basically straight away. So you should at least get pinged if you're a subscriber to the channel. And why wouldn't you be a subscriber to the channel? You'll get pinged Saturday, or depending on where you live, it could already be Sunday. They were having a ladies sort of talk about D&D, which I think is cool. And like the woman who was running it said, hey, anybody can join, but I just want to really have female speakers, which I think is great. They're going to be running another talk about druids later on. I think they also will be potentially running games. And I think I signed on. They're having a kind of an AMA type talk with GMs. And when I joined the Discord, they had put a call out for that. And I said, hey, I'm happy to join. I just want to make sure that it's okay, because my perspective is going to be, even if I'm talking about 5th edition, I tend to have an old school kind of bent. Obviously, if you watch or listen to anything on this channel, you probably get that about me. And my experience isn't strictly 5th edition, particularly if you're talking mechanical 5th edition, like I just said. Like I have the books, I've read them, I'm kind of educated, but I'm not a super genius on mechanics. If someone were asked from a GM's perspective about the mechanics of a spell or whatever, I'd have to look it up and read it and go through that. I don't have that stuff down. But she said, hey, this is the first one they're doing, so I think it's cool, and maybe it'll be something that I will do more than once. We'll see how that goes tomorrow. But that's about it. So that's all I could find were those two groups. And like I said, the OS I don't know if it was OS RPG or OS D&D. And I'm filming this on my phone, so I can't look at my phone to see which one it is. And then D&D, those were the two big groups. So what do I think about it? So what do I think about Clubhouse in terms of for RPGs? Right now, it seems like a pretty good medium to talk about it and have discussions, but it has a major, major weakness. Well, it has several weaknesses. I think maybe they feel like one of these weaknesses is going to be a strength, and maybe it will be. I don't know. There's no recordings. You come in, you say stuff, you really have to be there, and I think that, at least for now, part of their whole deal is you got to be there. You got to be in the room, because if you miss it, it's gone. It's like a conversation. But that means that right now it's in this limited beta, and it's full of groups that are very high-end marketeers, folks who are, I think, a lot of influencers and other people. I remember listening in on a YouTube thing, and folks who were talking about with their millions of views and all this stuff, talking about kind of their first class problems with something to do with YouTube or their algorithm, whatever. And I think, wow, like I am totally out of my league. But maybe I could use some of this advice in a few decades. It won't be there. It's gone. You got to participate. You got to be there. I don't know if ultimately that's good or bad. I tend to want to be able to have a recording of stuff. Certainly if I'm a speaker, I would love to be able to record it so I can pass it on, so I can have it on my YouTube channel so people can reference it, so that if I answer some question and someone on Reddit asks the same question and I've had this great response, I can forward it on, and just to have kind of a record of it. Well, you can't do that. The other thing is there's no text element. And this comes up in a couple different ways. When I was listening in on that OS D&D group playing, they were using kind of different platforms, which makes sense for running their game, because all Clubhouse can do is just transmit audio and do the whole thing with speakers and raising hands and kind of just stuff about having this audio part of the conversation. It has no abilities to roll dice or show pictures or send text chat. And in fact, what one of the guys was doing was they were changing their icon to show kind of what creature or NPC that the party was doing. And so he was changing his icon, and so you could kind of pick up, kind of click on his profile and see a new picture, which is kind of an annoying sort of workaround. So I would say if you're running a game, and they're probably doing it not just to run the game, but they want to publicize it, and Clubhouse is kind of the new platform. Great. If you were just going to run a game, there's no reason why I would run this over instead of Discord or something else, because Discord is just full featured in so many ways. Clubhouse is extraordinarily limited. I would only do it if I was trying to be like one of the cool cats and see if I could capture some influencer's attention who's going to then boost my, my room or my presence, whatever. Like, there's no reason to use it. Discord is way, way better for that. Right now, I think because it's small, because you have people on there who want to be there, people on there who are actively trying to create a community and promote that community, you're getting a lot of good talk. There's not a lot of, I don't know, garbage talk is the right word. It's very concentrated with folks who are putting out a lot of good content. So that part is good, and I think you can find a lot of good conversations because everyone who's there kind of needs to be there, kind of wants to be there, is pursuing being there. So you're not getting a lot of stuff that you might get on Twitter, Facebook, where everybody and their brother has 8 million accounts and they can just come in and troll and do all that stuff. People who want to be there, who are there, want to be there. That's not going to last forever. And the more they open this up to everybody else, the more you're going to get people who don't necessarily want to be there, who might be mucking up the works. So who knows what it'll be like whenever they start opening up. 3 months, 6 months, whatever that is. I don't know. But for right now, it's kind of an interesting space. Like I said, I'm going to try to make a group to maybe capture a little bit more OSR kind of thing. Just see if there are other like-minded folks on there who want to talk about OSR stuff. I definitely, if I really am going to do talks on there, I'm going to see how at least I can record myself and maybe do something with that, because I'm spending time on it. I want to try to have as much of people who might be interested in see it or hear it, as possible. So we'll just have to wait and see how that is. I think if you were looking at it like, ooh, I got to join Clubhouse to see what's going on in the RPG space, it's high quality, but there's not a lot of it. So if you're thinking if you're going to get a Clubhouse invitation and just see a boom of all kinds of RPG stuff going on, it's not there yet. But I would say that D&D group, fairly high quality stuff, assuming your 5th edition stuff. And I think they really are trying to find a lot of new players. A lot of their stuff seems to be focusing on new folks, new DMs, new players, kind of getting them into the game, which I think is great. But if you are advanced and you're trying to just talk about really advanced into the weeds kind of stuff, I'm not sure how interesting that will be for you. But if you have an invite sitting around, you might as well hop on it and give it a look. I am on there. My handle is Hexed Press, and they're using a sort of a kind of Twitter notation. So you can search for me, I think, at sign Hex Press. Maybe I'll see you on there. Shoot me an invite. Always happy to connect. But that's all I got. That's the current state of Clubhouse. Talk to you later.